Okay, you tell me go and I'll ask him.
Okay, you ready? Okay. Hi, I'm Arnold Jackson. This is my breeding loft here, and what I'm going to do today is show you guys a couple of my breeders and actually lay out my breeding program along with how I fly and train birds too. That'll give you an indication of what, how I take care of my birds. What I've got here now is a young cock. He's an 89 cock that I started over with. I've had birds, like I said, for 30 years, but I was out of flying competition for probably 10 to 15 years. I got back in 1987, and a friend of mine, Cornell Norwood, bred up a cock for me to use as my foundation bird. And so far, this pigeon has produced everything I had in my loft as far as my breeders go. One of his sons, direct sons, was a California Classic Reserve champion in 1992. He's got a daughter that was fourth place in that same class. This bird has proven to be a real good breeder and producing good birds too. What I'll do now is, he's an ash red checker cell. A little size, he carries a little bit of weight, something I really don't care for. What I'm looking for here is his genetic makeup. He has spinning qualities and foundations in his blood. His parents I did get to see fly, so I was looking at an aerial performer before I picked this bird up. I also picked him up out of the air too as a youngster, and we let him fly about 6 months, and I pulled him down. So what I'll do now is I'll show you how I've progressed through this bird to where I am today.
Okay.
Okay, this youngster here, the young cock, is the grandson to the 0827 cock. His son that was in the Classic, I have out on loan right now, along with one of my other better cocks. This cock right now, though, is my loft-producing cock. And the reason he is the loft-producing cock, not only was he a great performer in the air, he's the kind of bird that produces birds that will stand still for you in the air. And that's principally because he has the size, which is small, neat, tight. He has the structure and the weight to perform without throwing himself off balance. His wing is clipped, but that was so the guys that borrowed him couldn't lose him. So
Smart idea.
Good idea.
that's why he's still clipped out here.
No excuses, right?
None at all. And right now, what I've done with this cock is cross him to every other hen I have in my loft, whether they're related to him or not. Because I do believe in breeding best to best. And when you make that statement, everybody is not fully understanding of what best to best means. Okay, I breed my birds for their genetic build and makeup. I also make them physically equipped to perform to the maximum. And to do that, I've learned, like everybody else, it takes strength, but not bulk. It takes size, but not weakness. That's what you have to have in birds that you're going to ask to perform at a higher quality than global. And that's what these birds are producing. This young cock right here, I call him JR30, is my principal cock right here. Just to give you an example of what he does produce for me, I'll bring out a couple of hens to show you. This is my cock type wise and everything that I'm going to use for many years coming up. Okay, this is a daughter off of JR30 here, and she really exemplifies the best that he can produce. She is probably, if you graded both of them together, she outpoints him as far as grading is, because she is carrying everything in the right proportion. The size is there, and she is a pure spinner also. And right now I'm breeding her to produce more. One thing you'll notice the difference in, here's the foundation cock. Now as you pan down and you look at JR30 and his daughter, you see a progression into a smaller type.
I can see it.
But what we're still maintaining is expression, strength, and character in these birds. We're not making little short-beaked birds that look like benches and losing the quality of the pigeon itself. So that's my main objective here in breeding these birds, bring them in to more or less, instead of a show-type bird, I'm looking for an athlete. Like in anything in nature, you know, if you're going to deal with athletes, they don't always look like they're the prettiest.
As long as they do the work.
Right?
As long as they do the work.
They can do the
Perform.
work. That's the primary thing when you get into competition. You're talking about dealing with an athlete when you're talking about competition. You're talking about show, and we have a standard to go by, and then you've got points, different things you can deal with. When you're talking about aerial performance at the highest level, then you got to pay. You know, you got to do things a lot differently. If I was flying just for my own entertainment and fun and everything, and didn't have to compete against anybody else, this might be a whole different ballgame. You know, and introduce a lot more color, probably a lot different style. I wouldn't be concerned about the rigidness of building the birds for competition. And that's the work that's involved when you do dedicate yourself to competing. And that's something everybody really should be aware of, because just because you go out and buy a bunch of birds doesn't mean that you can compete. And that's something I promote throughout all of my work with the birds and everything else.
How long you been working on this plan right here with these pigeons?
This is going into my 6th year now.
Your 6th year.
Yeah.
And you got this stock cock from Cornell, Norwood?
Yeah, I sure did. Well, the reason I got this cock from Cornell is he has been one of the leading breeders of high-class spinners for the last 20, 30 years. We grew up as kids together and got separated as we grew up, and I went into the service and got away from him. And after I got back in the birds, when I lived down in the Compton area there, I got everything stolen. So I just went into breeding colored birds, you know, reduced, recessives, and all of your dilution types, from the yellows down to, mealies, spreads, all of that. And when I went to a show down in where was it? Garden Grove, and Cornell and the guys from the BCRC were there, and they were flying some birds for competition. And what they fly is what they call an individual bird competition. And that's not to say that it's just one pigeon in the air flying all around, rolling, and they're counting that bird. This pigeon has to be a part of the kit and has to roll from the kit. But they judge it on its merit total against every other kit. Yeah, other bird. So I like that aspect, and I picked up some birds from him, had him breed before me. That's what I started.
I'm not too familiar with the Cornell line of birds. What are some of the numbers behind this bird?
You could talk, well, the 514 hen is the principal hen behind all of them. There's a couple of birds, 2564, which is a son, a grandson, 2524, these type of birds, 990, which is a grandson also. And most of these birds were probably famous 20, 30 years ago. Back when Bill Pinson and Lester Lee Meyer and these guys were raising birds. So they do have real strong history as far as being from the top-notch birds in this country. There's a little J. Leroy Smith, and there were some Bologna birds, that tie into it also. And as we were speaking earlier, this is my family of birds, but it's made up of other families of birds tied into it. Because what I breed for and what I use breeders for is the right type of bird has to match the right type of bird. I don't like to do what we call compensatory mating. And that means taking a bird with one fault and another has a different fault and putting them together hoping that they will blend out their faults. I don't breed that way. Because in most cases I've seen it's either going one way or the other, and you might get a bird that is what we consider a sport that might look right but not carry the right characteristics. That why I take, you know, painstaking effort and time to breed my birds. There's probably 2 or 3 hens and cocks that I have in here that I don't have mates for, although I have other pigeons. And I will not mate these birds together because they're not compatible.
Okay.
What is too big and what is too small in your books? When the birds are too big in your books and when they're too small, because I've seen them get real small. I've seen birds get real small and you know, they
Okay, well, I'll tell you what.
elaborate on that.
Okay, what you have to really realize, first of all, is, you know, what makes these birds roll, period. And from all of my study and understanding, it's the genetic influence that causes the birds to roll. And from that standpoint, you can have that genetic characteristic in any type of pigeon, period. I could care less about size, color, wingspan, or weight, or whatever. You can have that genetic makeup in that bird. But in order for that pigeon to perform to its maximum capacity, now you've got to break it down and put this bird within its physical needs. And that means the bird's got to be light, it's got to be strong, and it's got to be in balance. And if you can get that pigeon into that mode, then you offer that the maximum you can give it to perform to its maximum. And that's our objective, to do that. So the bigger the birds are, the longer the wings, the longer the feathers, and I mean the primaries and secondaries and tail feathers, then it causes you to have a bird that's not quite capable of turning as quickly or as fast or and balanced as, say, a bird that's built correctly. Kind of like taking a Ferrari engine and putting it in a Cadillac. You're not going to get the same performance. Although the engine is there and built for all the speed you can get, but you got to put the right shell on it.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You've been talking about the mental and the physical aspect, but let me ask you something. So a bird can be big, so to speak, if it lacks the inner strength on that bird. If it lacks the inner genetic makeup, no matter how strong it may look on the outside,
It will not perform.
it will. Okay, but at the same time, a bird could be small,
Exactly.
but if it lacks that inner
Genetic makeup,
it
it can't.
so a small pigeon doesn't necessarily, by looking at a small pigeon handling it, it's not really,
It's not the real key. You have
it's
to
not the
know-
real key.
Right. You have to know the family
Okay.
and the background and makeup of the bird itself.
Now, Pensum talked about this,
Yeah.
about the mental and physical.
Exactly.
You know, that there has to be that. He talked about,
Well,
what was it
it's-
about?
it's-
It's got to be
it's a
like what you're talking about.
The genotype is what Bill was talking about.
All right.
And that's the gene to perform, period. You can have a turkey out here, and if he's got a spinning genetic makeup, then he's got it inside him. He might not be able to perform it, but he's got it. It's different between trying to make birds small versus taking small good birds and building them to the right.
And that's what you're saying here pertaining to his son,
Yeah.
the dark check. When actually he's got the same genetic makeup on the inside,
Exactly.
probably even better genetic makeup,
No.
or the same,
Same.
but yet the outside it's physically equipped more for better performance.
Exactly. Right.
Where the hen itself, you can see it's quite a ways from the original sire.
Yeah. Now this bird was a real good performer in the air, but I want you to take a look at the wingspan here.
It's not really long.
Not really long, but it's rather long feather. And that's in the secondaries and the primary. This is a nice wing for this pigeon though.
How old is this bird?
Yeah, he's 6 years.
Okay,
Now
I see it. I see
that's
it.
a nice looking wing. I mean, it's neat, it's strong. He's got all of the strength characteristics you want to have in a bird. But to perform and compete with a bird like his son, he could not do that if they were both equal. Because he has drag, whereas his son's feathers only come about half.
How old is his son?
He's about 3, 2,
2 years?
2.5.
Now, Arnold, wouldn't this performance between the two, since the son has shorter secondaries and primaries, and the father has longer, wouldn't that create like what we termed in the 70s and maybe even in the early 80s about like the ball bearing effect, where the bird would go into a spin but it wouldn't drop? Would that create less drop than the sun? The sun would drop faster, wouldn't it?
Well, he could, but
I mean, wouldn't this bird go into a floating effect because of its
the feather, yeah.
but yet the bird is well proportioned
Right. Yeah,
to its size.
the length of feather adds to the drag on the birds, and that's what you mentioned.
Okay.
That it probably has the illusion of it becoming slower.
Okay, but actually that bird is probably pretty fast.
It's very fast.
But then that would give what Cornell Norwood said, the ball bearing effect.
Exactly.
We talked about it in the 70s and then
Right.
again in the 80s. But then he was talking about towards I think I talked to him maybe a year before he went up to be with the Lord, and so that the birds the prison birds that he had were much faster.
Yes.
Much faster. And it's because the same concept that he's been applying, same principle you've been applying to these
Exactly.
birds here.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's why I took up his family of birds, because they already had the engine is here.
You also mentioned something about the birds being strong and light in body.
Right.
Can you elaborate a little bit about that? Like, if I didn't know what you meant. So for the young novices and for those that are coming in, so they can learn.
Okay. Basically, what we were talking about there is weight and distribution on the bird. And our primary concern there is, as I mentioned earlier, is to build your birds to be athletes. They've got to be athletes first. Pigeons that perform in the air like these, that turn somersaults, which this is more or less a trick. First of all, they've got to be strong but not bulky like a weightlifter. These pigeons have to be built more or less in line with, say, a gymnast. Somebody that has strength and full control and balance of themselves, but don't carry the load. And what we like to say in our world here is that we like birds to be light and strong and have muscles that are hard but not bulky. We want the muscle dense. We want the thickness of the muscle to be very tight without carrying a lot of fat.
You want a lot of bulk.
Bruce Lee type.
Yes, exactly, right. Because now you're talking about a bird that is physically performing, and that's what you want it to do. You don't want it just to turn over and fall. We want maximum turns out of that in as short a space as possible.
Now, I've been watching these birds since you put them out here. I noticed that they got good temperament on them. Is it because you work with them, or temperament runs in this particular line?
No, I tell you what, temperament is good, but you still have to cultivate it. And what I do is when I start weaning my youngsters, matter of fact, I start handling my youngsters right in nest, right up in hatch. And I handle them all the way through the weaning process and after I put them out with the other birds. So they are used to being handled, and they don't have that wildness about them. Just from not being handled, but they don't have it from their genetic makeup either, because they're calm and collected and within themselves. I've got a couple birds in here, you look at them, they look right back at you, right through you.
Norm Reed made a statement the other day that a wild bird in the hand is a wild bird in the ear.
That has been pretty much so. I mean, there's exceptions to that, but it's still, it's a good criteria to use. You don't ever want to walk in your loft and have your birds flying up against the walls and cages and everything else. And if you're holding a bird, it's trying to get away from you, and everything else is saying it is either afraid, for one thing, or it just can't handle the situation. appearance.
William H. Benson stressed a lot about temperament.
Yeah. Yeah, you want that. You want to be able to deal with a bird. It's like here. He's not afraid of anything. Period. Wait. When he was a baby, before he was growing out, I used to play with him over here. I do the same thing.
I know that you've only brought out 3 birds out, but I noticed that their eyes are one color. They're the orange eyes.
Orange is predominant in this family of birds, but there are, I have pearl and yellow, different red-eyed birds too. You know, it's just a difference in mating, which bird you're going to get. I don't breed.
Because you know, a lot of people say that the pearl eyes are stable birds and the orange eyes are that's the cat's pajamas. So you say that that's just hocus pocus?
Well, just another cliche, and that's
Another cliche,
yeah.
huh?
And that's the problem in our sport. Probably the majority of the people that raise our birds raise it for fun, and they compete just, occasionally. When you get down to the real dedicated, breeders and plotters of these birds, then you start seeing a difference in the type of bird, and the characteristics of the pigeons, the physical structure. The whole thing changes. And as Bill mentioned too, in a lot of his writings, we have a tendency to go to the dark checkers and the red checkers. Well, for some reason or another, throughout the general fancy, the other prettier colors are more predominant. It's only when you get into the real serious guys you start getting the bland, dull, looking colors. But it's the performance of these birds, and whether it's it's an optical illusion or whatever else, these birds seem to be the ones that perform the best when bred right.
There's a lot of writing on, that light colored birds make the dark birds roll more consistent. What's your input? Give me a little bit more on that.
I tell you what, I'm not an advocate of color, because I don't believe that color makes pigeon roll or not. Color is how would you say it, an aesthetic value to the breeder himself. If you like badges, bald heads, and white-winged birds, then that's your fancy.
That's your fancy.
Right, but that doesn't say that those birds roll any better than any of the pigeons.
Tortoiseshells can be late just like dark checks can be early.
Exactly right. But that's why I say, in our hobby, a lot of people take the cliches and use it as true when they don't know better.
Benson wrote that the darker colors like dark checks and red checks and dark guns that had heavy blue in them were the better spinners.
Okay,
do you hold that to be true?
Well, he said that, and that is a true statement from him. But he said within his family of birds, and he made that distinction in his family of birds, and that's where other people have taken it out. And said,
Every family is
different.
different.
In general.
So that's where the trouble lies.
Yes.
Okay, Arnold.
A lot of miscommunications.
Okay, Arnold, we're having a good time here. Without question, right, Pete?
Yes, I had one question to ask. How long did you fly that bird for in the middle right there for?
Yeah, probably about 9 months.
9 months?
Yeah.
And he was rolling about how deep?
He wasn't that deep. He was probably 20 to 25 foot.
What made you consider to stock him out and put him in a stock loft at 9 months of age?
Two things. One is that I knew I flew all of his father and uncles and aunts.
You knew the family already?
Yeah. And this bird started performing probably at about 3 months, just tumbling. And then he started rolling. He went into a mode about the 6th month and just shut down. In the 9th month, he came back into a roll. When he came back in at 20 foot. One day, he just, all of a sudden, I see he doing 20 foot, and it was just a buzz. He was flying, rolling, wings straight up, age pattern, clean, tight. So he showed me that he had what I was looking for in my birds, and that was the speed, style, size, and control that I wanted to breed from. Being out of my classic champion cock, for me that just enhanced it even more.
Is that about the age that you always pull out a bird out of the air to put him in the stock loft to breed?
No.
Or does it vary?
It varies on the pigeon, like I mentioned earlier, I don't just put two pigeons together because they're the same pedigree or out of the same parents. If I have a bird that is in the kit that has some breeding value to me, then I will pull that bird after it shows what it's worth. And that could be at any age.
That is a nice looking cock.
I noticed that the dark check has a short back.
Yes.
Do you breed for short backs? Because I've seen small birds still possess like a straight back. Like I see
long
like
back.
a curve. There's like a curve, like a banana type. I can see it from right here. But do you breed for short backs?
Yeah.
Or is that what you meant by compact?
Yes. And
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, the short backs?
Okay, when we deal with the back on a pigeon like these, you do want the shortness in the back, and that's from front to back. You do want the back muscling that comes down the pectoral muscle right off the shoulder here into the back. And then you want to find a depression right at the base of it.
I see it.
Right there. Right there. You see it right there.
It's there, Pete.
Right, and that really tells you that the bird has the physical makeup and the muscling to perform to its maximum capacity.
You can really ball it up.
It can really ball it up.
In Kowalski's book, without question, is a good book, but he didn't really write too much about the shortness of the back. That's about as equal as important as a short keel. What do you think about it? Give me a little input on that. I know I'm putting you in the red, bro.
Okay.
But that's what the whole purpose of it all, you know? Oh, it's wonderful.
Okay, what Kowalski really mentioned, and I'll tell you what, Kowalski's got the best book for anybody to read for training.
Definitely.
And coming out and learning about the birds.
Definitely.
Like I say, he doesn't expound greatly into the details in areas like this. But when we talk about the back on a bird, the first thing I just showed you is, yes, I do like a short back with muscling over the shoulders coming down. Not only when you have put a short back on a bird, you've got to balance the keel. And now we're talking about the structure of the bird. So short back has to go with short keel or balanced keel. And that is, if this is the back, that keel placement has got to be in balance with this pigeon. You know, you can't be all the way back because you're throwing out of balance. If it's too far forward, it's like throwing a hammer. You know, you get this
fall forward.
Hammer handle going over. So it's got to be balanced. So if you got a short back, you're going to have a short keel. If it's fairly between deep and shallow, which is normal,
That makes a perfect balance
So
for the
one
pigeon.
without the other would
you just throw it out of balance.
it would be out of balance.
Yeah, because you have to have the physical makeup along with the genetic makeup.
It's
in
all
order
in
to
there,
do it,
man.
right?
It's all in there.
Exactly.
Well, the Kowalski book is a good book.
Yes.
But how in the world could you possibly be about something like that?
Well, he alluded to it when he spoke about the back, short back.
Uh-huh.
He was making people aware of short back significance. And that's what he did. Now, he is one that has never subscribed to back muscling as being of any significance. The only person that I know that really pushed that issue is Arnold. And he had, he found it to be true within the family birds he worked with. In the whole, out in the general, the statement is that you probably won't see a true champion without him. Yeah.
That's a powerful statement.
Yeah. And that, takes us to the other area of performance too, is that in grading your birds in the air, you've got to know what your objectives are first. Do you want to raise rollers, tumblers, or spinners?
Does that apply to the hens as well?
Yes, exactly. And if you notice, most of these birds will be, as I bring them out, they will all be identical twins when it comes to physical makeup.
All right. Let's bring some more birds on.
Okay, what you're looking at here right now, this is a cocktail 30. These are 4 youngsters off of this cock. Now, these birds will wind up probably in my breeding program as the foundation birds for the whole lot. What we got here, we talked about the physical structure, genetics, and makeup of back, muscle, and keel, and all that. Another very key, important item that you must address is how well your birds breed and produce themselves or better. Because that's the foundation of putting any pairs together, is that you're going to try and at least duplicate what you have or progress a little further. And if you can perpetuate better by your matings with the birds you have, then you have actually accomplished something in your breeding program. Right now, I took the old cocktails, but as you can see, the type on these birds is coming in play now. You're starting to look at a nice, neat, small, clean, good-looking bird with good expression. You know, along with that, these birds have got to produce. That is, you can't have a little bird laying little tiny eggs that you can't hatch. They can't be missing, one or two generations as they breed. So these birds have to be physically sound along with being good performers.
Whoa.
And you have to maintain that quality within your family of birds.
Is that what Penson meant? Not every good spinner is a good breeder? Is that what he meant, or there's more to that? Could you elaborate a little bit?
Basically, when you see a bird that all of us breed, and we're all going to have one outstanding bird in our kits. When you start competing and looking at the higher level of birds, there are birds that you don't actually look for, and all of a sudden you'll see a bird in your kit out of a pair you never expected to be the champion of your kit. Okay, the problem there lies in what was put into that bird to make it perform like that, or is this just what we call a sport? This bird just happened to have fairly decent genetic makeup, outstanding physical makeup, and its performance shows that. Okay, when you break this bird down though, and you start hunting for a mate, and everything you put this bird on does not perform according to what this bird did in the air, then you've got to strike that bird out of your breeding program, regardless of what his performance is. Because the bird cannot help you. Same case, a lot of guys use this theory too. They'll take a bird that does not perform at all, out of known top quality birds, and use that as a breeder, and many times they get excellent birds out of it too. Because they take it into consideration the genetic makeup and the bird itself. It may not perform, but it still has got that engine inside.
So pedigree breeding can be a trap as well, because it can be good, but it can be bad.
You've got to know your family of birds when you really talk about pedigree breeding. And in that sense, we're talking about inbreeding, line breeding, and then just compensating breeding. And to explain those, I'll go a little more into detail about compensatory mating. Take one of my birds here that is a second generation bird now, and take and breed that to a larger bird outside of the genetic pool here would be disastrous. And in another sense, all it does is forces me to start all over again. Every time I go outside of the family of birds that I'm dealing with here, I have to start from square one again. Now, I do this to a certain extent because I don't have a problem with inbreeding, but I don't want to be locked into the negative characteristics that the birds may carry. So I need that hybrid vigor injected into these birds every once in a while. Some of the guys I've known, and Cornell being principal, when he adapted a 5-year program here recently, and he would turn over most of his birds within a 5-year period just to keep this strength and stamina going throughout these birds. Because inbreeding, theoretically, can be done and can be done correctly if you stick to it. And that is, you don't breed weak birds to strong birds. You don't breed weak birds to weak birds. And as long as you maintain the strength and vitality together, you should not have any problem. These old things about web feed, rolling blood in the eyes, and all these kind of things comes from mismatings. Bad matings is what that comes from. And I don't care what family of pigeons it's in, you're going to get it if you put the two wrong pair of birds together.
You know, we interviewed Sal Estrada, and Sal Estrada said something really important. He said that every bird in his yard has to have a purpose. No dead weights.
He's hardcore.
He's hardcore.
Exactly. Which is good. Which is good.
So sometimes we have a tendency of keeping birds just because of pedigree.
Yes. Exactly. And it's an easy thing to do.
It's an easy thing to do.
Because we all, nostalgia is it's like a chain around your neck sometimes because you can't get rid of it. This is related to something that one of the greats had something to do with, and boy, you want a piece of that apple, the greatness in it.
Yeah.
And it's not always true, like I mentioned earlier.
I've seen people give out, just mediocre pigeons that are from a superior strain. Just regular pigeons, nothing supreme, and then someone else gives them the same thing, but of another family of birds. They're not actually the main, main stock or the main birds, but I've seen them combine them together and boom, birds come back.
Exactly. Okay, Johnny asked a question about birds out of strong pedigree families of pigeons being let go for pennies to different breeders, and the birds are just common in their normal aspect. But when you take these birds out and you breed them to something else, all of a sudden here you start producing birds that are top quality, better than the parents even.
Someone down the street.
And the reason for that is nostalgia and prestige have probably been the two biggest killers in breeding good lines of pigeons. Because we, as youngsters, most of us go out and try to find birds from the best, or from the greatest, or from some long-time outstanding breeder. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the best birds that person has. And that's what comes back to this. You might get a lesser bird from them, but out of the strong family. And when you take that bird out and you cross it out, what you've actually done is inject this bird with new vigor. And now you've got hybrid vigor in an outstanding bird that you can now start building a family from and produce, even though part of it is out of the old stuff.
All right. Also, at the same time, I've seen people pick up the best birds from each family and then boom, nada.
Okay.
Nothing, man. What's going on right there?
Okay.
Come on.
Well, the best is, as they say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Okay, if you're going to, say, just for instance, Bill Penson's law, and you picked out a bird that you thought was the best pigeon he had, he said, okay, well, take it home with you. You take the bird home and it doesn't perform to your expectation or breed either. Well, actually, what you've done is taken the aesthetic value over what the worth of the pigeon really is as far as its genetic building. And a lot of people do that in their own lofts. They will always select and breed from the most pleasing looking pigeons versus the pigeons that are actually working. And that is how you get caught in the trap.
Caught up in the mix.
Right. But like I said, as long as you're really building your birds, if you're going to compete, if you're not competing, all this is a wash. Because if you're not competing, you're raising birds for yourself, your own self, esteem and everything else, then you don't have to worry about this stuff. Because when you get out there in the arena, where you've got to compete and challenge other people,
That's right.
is when the job starts getting tougher now. And then you get into the area of going from novice to now the professional. Because you're going to be dealing with people out there. You won't take a guy who's just been in birds a year out here and go fly against a Terry Higgins. He will get killed right off the top. Why? Because experience.
Like
knowledge.
Mike Tyson against
Exactly.
Arnold Jackson.
Definitely.
All right. Hey, bro, as we're moving along, because we want to cover more of your birds, Pete's got a few questions he want to ask you. So, you want to see more birds? Go ahead, Pete.
No, but the question I asked you a while ago, if that cock produced on different hens, and will it come out the same size, or you find it different when he produces on different hens?
Okay, right now, in breeding this cock, and the reason I selected him is because of the first 2 matings I tried him on as experiments was to find out his worth in the breeding hall. If he was an excellent bird in the air, but that still does not make him a top breeder. So the first 2 matings I put him on, I wanted to see how big an influence he had on the hens that used him. So that's why I used multiple hens to see just what this little fellow could do. Well, right now he's fairly consistent in that he has thrown himself in about 99% of the cases with birds of different stature. Now what I'm going to is for birds of this type, lean, thin, strong body, light feather. But I bred him to birds with thicker feather and heavier bodies. And what I've got in this case here is a bird that is structurally the same as the cock, but it's carrying a lot more weight. She weighs twice as much as the father. Now the mother didn't weigh that, but this was a total, complete outcross back to this bird's out of Home Cadare's line of pigeons. And Frank Lopez, yeah, back to them. Those birds had been inbred for many, many years to achieve small size, and they were never outbred. As soon as you cross them into another line of birds like I did with mine and brought it back in, then I exposed the genetic background in those pigeons.
Oh, the size comes
so the
back.
size popped right back up.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
That's very interesting.
Right, so these are the things you have to look at. You know, like I said, physically, all the characteristics are the same as the cock.
Yeah. And I hold that to be true because I've ventured in this area and everything that's happened here with you has happened with me as well.
Now you can't do that with every cock, but you know, like I said, I selected this cock after breeding his family for. Right now, I've got about 6 generations of these pigeons here since I started. Okay, you ready for anything else?
We'll talk a little bit more.
Okay, now these are 3 hens that I bred the JR30 here, and I bred 2 hens. There's one here. I can show you. This is the daughter off of the little dun hen right here. And that hen I purchased from Joe Angulo is an outcross for the birds that I'm dealing with. Joe's had the nest mate full of sister to her, which that was the cock that was the champion at the classic. My bird was runner-up to that cock.
Last year's classic?
No, it was 92.
92.
Right.
That's the same family?
The black one?
Black,
It was the black one.
Is that the same family of birds?
Same. That's the same. This is the nest mate to the mother to that bird.
Okay.
And I picked up her too, along with about 5 different brothers, because those were some real performing.
So now we're inbreeding. Or no, right now we're line breeding the family of birds. We're not going all crosses with them.
No, this is pure outcross. Everything you see right here is outcross to this cock.
Total outcross from that cock.
This was the first one out of that relates to that black family of birds. And
It seemed like the blood hit right there.
it hit right there, but the little cock carried
That's
himself right.
interesting.
He carried himself right through it.
Mm-hmm. It's pertaining to your blood.
Right. Yeah. If you feel the body on that bird and the strength in that pigeon, you can see what I was really after.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get the name JR30?
It's Junior. We call him Junior.
Junior.
Yeah. His father's at 195. Right?
Oh, 195 cock.
Okay, then
Nice
next.
type of bird.
Yeah, strong. And that's what I was looking for, to see just how this cock bred, bred.
Okay. Now we were discussing earlier about when the birds come into the roll. But when the birds come into the roll, this family, when they come into the roll, how long do you fly them after they come into the roll?
Okay, I'll tell you what.
Because some birds can come into the roll at 9 months and then they're only flown for 2 more months or 4 more months, and they say, well, these birds are a year old,
Yeah.
but they only came in 4 months. How long airtime after they come into the roll?
Okay, primarily if I'm flying birds for competition, they will stay in the air for at least 3 years. And I like to do that because as far as the maturity of the pigeons is which a lot of us get away from. one is not having enough patience, and we want to get that champion bird, and we want to get the top-notch bird in the breeding lot as soon as we can. But you got to pay a price for that too, and that's time. Now the maturity on all of these pigeons, this comes from not only these birds, but racing homers, the other birds that they fancy also, is approximately, say, a year and a half to 2.5 years is when they come to full maturity. And most of your breeders, if you're breeding birds before their third year, you're going to see changes in the breeding program if you keep the same pairs together as they mature. And what happens there, the birds reach their peak within a span from, say, 3 years to 7 years, is when you're going to get the best pigeons, period, out of that pair of birds. Anything before there is going to change up a little bit. Anything after that, when they start going downhill, is going to change up a little too. So the old cliche of, getting the old 15-year-old cock and putting him on the, little 2-year-old hen may be a nice thing to do to preserve the old blood, but that's not going to guarantee you that you're going to make better pigeons out of it.
If you fly the birds for 3 years, them rolling at 25 feet to 35 feet to 40 feet for 2 to 3 years, that's a lot of strength in the mental section department.
Exactly. Right.
Now, Cornell Norwood and we were talking about it, about I don't breed out of no Dizzy birds, or any pigeon that doesn't want to fly out of that box.
Exactly.
And some pigeons, they don't want to come out of that kit box. Is it because Cornell mentioned something about that they're suffering, the infliction is overwhelming them. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay.
Do you look for that too?
I'll tell you what.
Does it?
There we come to a difference.
Okay. Just give me what you got.
Okay, now Cornell is a staunch advocate of the old pencil theory of epilepsy being the cause for the birds to roll. I don't adhere to that philosophy at all because I have proven it to myself 1,000 times over.
Okay.
That I think these birds roll because they want to. And some birds roll and can't control what they do.
All right.
And that's because of their physical or genetic weakness. Some pigeons have the physical tools to spin, but they don't have the mental framework to handle it. So what you see with these birds is that they'll go into a roll and just nut up like a dime. But when they come out of it, they have problems. One, in the way that they come out of it, whether it's sideways, or when they come out, they can't break properly and their feet are hanging out and they're disoriented and trying to get themselves back together. Then this is a genetic weak pigeon when that happens. And what you want your bird to do is to go into the spin as clean and tight as they can and come out the same, going right back to the kid. Anything less than that, whether it's tail setting, wing switching, or just flying off and going away from the kid and not coming back for a while, is really a fault. You don't want that in your
How about when they're in the ground? Like this is what me and Cornell got into it.
Okay.
In a good way, guys. When the bird was in, he would say when a bird, got back in the kit box or in the ground, like Pencil would give him little canary millets or whatever it was, and if a pigeon would display a little dizziness or this uncoordination, well, the bird's not in the air. I mean, what's causing that? I mean, like, so the young fanciers can understand.
Okay.
I mean, explain to me there.
Okay.
What's happening there? Is that just
you'll see on
mental weakness?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, there's two things. One is if this is a real hard working bird, and I'm saying a bird that probably within a 15-minute period of time rolls 2 to 3 times a minute, then when that bird lands, he's probably exhausted. Okay, that's going to be a normal situation.
Normal. It's just like me and you. It'd be normal if they put us in the.
Okay. The other factor, though, is if the pigeon is not a consistent worker, and when it comes down and lands on the log, and it displays dizziness or disorientation and a lack of strength and control, then that pigeon has got something wrong with it. And it could be a physical conditioning, and it could be mental, that the stress of rolling itself has really got the bird wound up and he can't handle it. And a lot of times they want to get down as soon as possible. You've seen birds like I mentioned earlier, they will roll and then they will go away.
I got a bad body type. I don't think I want to roll.
right. Or they know that if they come back to that kid, that they're going to perform because the excitement is there and will cause them to roll. So what they do is stay away from the kid. Well, you don't want those kind of birds because you want the bird that loves to roll. I give you a perfect example of 195, which is my principal cock. The first thing I noticed when I raised him and about 14 other siblings to him was that they like to compete against each other in the air. And 195's nest mate, which bird I didn't send to the classic, he had a real great characteristic. He picked on a hen I had, a blue checker hen that was rolling 30, 40, 50 foot. And what he would do was allow other birds to start rolling, and then he'd burn right past it. He'd do that all during the flight. He keyed on one pigeon and just worked on her to show her who is the top guy. That's the type of pigeon you want that is out there, that is enjoying what it's doing, and is capable, really.
Would you make two pigeons that display too much dizziness after?
Not at all. Not at all. I wouldn't. Birds that...
What would you do for the novices to understand if you had a champion that displayed, just a good pigeon that displayed a little bit dizziness, and it was say it was out of your main cock that was really good? How would you sort of repair it? Would you put one that? No, you wouldn't get that adventure. I mean, come on, that's why I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
No, I would not breed that pigeon.
Okay.
I would not breed that pigeon. For one thing.
Not at all.
No, because that goes right back to my principal breeding structure, and that is not to do compensatory matings.
Like a fault?
Good and bad, I don't put good and bad together.
Okay. And this is what you mean?
Right. If it's got a fault, an obvious fault.
You really mean best to best when you...
That's it. That's it.
Did it
You
take
see
you
the
long?
importance there?
Yeah. How long did it take you to discern that bird, what he was doing up in the air while he was flying?
Probably...
Did he start doing that right away?
No, he came into the role about 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. He was tumbling before that, but he actually didn't really start performing a decent role in spin until then.
The big question, I set you up for this. What do you consider a champion spinner? What's your ideal? I know there can never be that perfect set standard, but give us your opinion for the novices that are coming in the future.
Okay.
We're going to stick this tape in their mouth.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Before we go
are a
to
veteran.
that, can we finish what we were talking about? The discernment of that pigeon in the air? You say a couple
okay.
months?
Okay. Yeah, the bird came into the role about 6 months, and then I just happened to notice one day the birds, they normally broke. My birds fly around and then they'll break into a roll, kip a roll together. But one thing I saw is this hen was a real, what I consider a champion roller, and she was performing all the time whether the kid rolled or not. And every time I noticed after a couple of months there, for about 8 months I guess, every time that hen rolled, I'd see this other bird come down right behind her. So I just started watching those two birds out of the kid as they rolled. It was fun, it was enlightening, and it was something that made me feel great to see a pigeon actually take on the challenge of another bird. It was outstanding. If anybody saw that kid, they would see the blue checker hen and probably not even see this other bird because she was just rolling that consistent and deep all the time. When he did that from that time on, from 8 months till he was 14 months old after I pulled him out of the air, he did that consistently with that one pigeon. He didn't do it with other birds, only with that one hen.
So you're summoning that statement that I gave you. What do you consider an ideal champion spinner? Is that basically what you're saying?
I'll get into that.
Okay.
I'll get into that now. Okay, Johnny asked me a very, very good question. Now, we're talking about quality in performance. And basically what we're talking about in quality is, I'll use a general term that everybody uses fairly loosely, and most people call any performance of these rollers spinning. In a general term, that's right, because it describes the motion and action of a bird that most people can relate to. Spinning. My birds spin 30 foot, they spin 500, spin 15, spin 25. That, in a sense, tells you that this bird is performing, but that's in general terms. Okay, when you start dealing with competition and quality, then you've got to take the terms and put them in the right perspective. And that is, first, in all of our birds we have tumbling, we have rolling, and we have spinning, true spinning. The difference in the performance of a champion roller, what I consider a champion roller, a bona fide champion spinner, is one element, and that is speed. Because they're both are going to perform physically in the same fashion if they're performing up to class, up to quality. The only difference is going to be the speed of the birds. Now that's very subjective to some people if they have not witnessed a true spinning pigeon. Because in most terms, like I said earlier, the term spinning is used so loosely that it applies to all birds. So most people think they have spinners when they do have good rollers. But when they are introduced to seeing and being around and witnessing true spinning birds, then they make the distinction very easy. And that's where you have the controversy between the guys, I'd say on the higher end, and the guys in between and below it. That it's the difference between their knowledge of what they're actually doing. So it's really not a fight, it's just a lack of knowledge. I say this to anybody in birds, period. You can be in birds 10, 15, 20, or 30 years, but if you haven't progressed to the point where you can recognize maximum performance and quality, then you still got a lot to learn. That distinguishes the men from the boys, more or less to say. Okay? And those are two things that I'll explain that in a point system that our club has put together, SBRC, which stands for Spinning Birmingham Roller Club. We've broken the points down in dealing with the individual bird so that we can distinguish the quality of a spinning bird versus a roller. And what we've done there is taken a point total from 1 to 30. And any point total between 1 and 22, when we're scoring our birds, falls in the roller category. So a bird that is point totaling 22 points is still a roller. It's not considered a spinner. Okay, any birds gaining points between 23 and 27 is considered a certified spinner. That pigeon is a spinner. Any pigeon between 28 and 30 is a champion. And that's how we break it down. And that is from all your judges, no less than 3 judges that will witness that fly. And as of this year, we've had our first certified spinner, which is a hen I have right here in the loft right now. A little 91 hen. And she did not start spinning until her 3rd year. She was a champion bird as a roller.
This
from 6 months up until 3 years.
This is the first certified spinner?
Yes, in our club.
In your club?
You're right.
How many years this club been?
5 now.
5 years.
Yeah. And this is the first one we actually flew, and she got points. She got 24 points, which puts her right in the middle of the spinning category.
Pertaining to the hole when they roll. You know, when they made Rick Shoney went to England, and some of those English fanciers, I'm not coming against the English fanciers, because what is a man's gain by discriminating another man's theories? Okay? But they were talking like they elaborated on beyond the hole. You know, our birds used to roll with the hole, but now that we've progressed,
exactly.
you know, they no longer roll with the hole. And then there's the other theories that we've gone beyond the hole, where the shrinking, where it starts off with a hole and it rolls so incredibly fast that it shrinks, like gives a melting. Okay,
let's take
elaborate on that.
Okay, let's take it from the bottom up.
Okay, bottom up.
When you're watching the birds and you get some flying, birds come around and you see birds jump out. Probably the average bird, you can just about count the rows on the pigeon. Whether or not you see a hole or not, it all depends on, you know, the angle that you're watching the bird from. Okay, as long as you can count the motion of that bird is still rolling too. Now it may be, the wings may be out, they could be in any arc between horizontal and vertical. And that really doesn't matter unless you score it. You do like to have a bird with the wings straight up. What happens though is when the guys are talking about the old time birds showing the hole, these were the bigger birds. Richard, do me a favor, grab me one of them big TikToks in there. Back in the, I'd say, late 40s, 50s, right on up through the 60s until Penson died, you know, there was a lot of guys out here raising a lot of good birds. And what we consider and call the old style pigeon, it goes right back to what I was telling you before. They had the engine, they had the genetic makeup.
Yeah, they had the inward power.
But most of them had that to deal with. The long secondary flight feathers, broad and wide, lots of feather, long and cast in body, good expression and character, all you wanted all day long.
Okay,
So
I get
these
you. I get
birds
you.
roll, yeah, now you're looking at a bigger ball, and now you can see through that.
Okay.
Okay, so what we actually have done in the progression of these birds is down through the years now, we've made them smaller, neater, and tighter, so that now the top quality birds, you won't see that motion of the wings going over and everything when these birds are rolling out, because they're so quick and fast and tight now. And we've reduced the drag by cutting all this feather off.
Mm-hmm.
Now there is no hole any longer. That bird is so small that right now you don't see a hole any longer.
We didn't actually cut it off. We thinned the feather out.
Yes.
We thinned it down, narrowed it down, right?
Narrowed it down and made them shorter.
Shorter.
Because that reduces the drag. You know,
We talked over before, you know,
Yes.
about the ball bearing
Yes.
effect.
yeah.
Now, so we've gone beyond the hole.
We've gone beyond the hole. Yes. Yes. And that is progress. Because remember one thing, nature's never static. And anything that is out here today can be improved upon. And we have yet to get to the point of maxing ourselves out.
So we've got so here we got it in tape beyond the hole.
Yes.
Okay.
Beyond
So what's
the
this?
hole.
So elaborate a little bit about what would cause that? Start off with a small hole and then just shrink down. Is the roll increasing?
It is.
Is it the wing beat increasing in that?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Elaborate on that.
It
a little
can.
bit.
You know, some birds, different families of birds, perform differently, although they all turn over backwards. You got some birds that will fly into the roll and just grab a roll and just snatch it off.
Mm-hmm.
You got other birds that will dip up and roll back down like that.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
And there's
go faster.
others will signal it. But
Not like the Chargers.
right.
All right.
So, you know, it depends on the family of pigeons you have. Now, what we like as an ultimate, is to have a bird flying along with the kid and all of a sudden just start with maximum speed from the beginning to end and come out. A lot of birds don't do that. A lot of birds will kick it in and they might slow it up and they might drop out. Some can say that may be a fault because what happens if a bird starts in well and it turns to one side or the other, and then the bird is switching wings and it's trying to get away from the roll. That's a characteristic you don't want in a bird because now you got a pigeon fighting the sense to roll, which is bad. You don't want that. You want a bird to go in, come out nice and clean, going about its business. So there are different families roll different ways. I like the birds. I had a family of blackbirds that were out of Frank Garcia's pigeons. And they had the characteristic of what I call rolling inside when they turned over. And this is more or less like what they do with parlors now. You know, some parlors you put them on the ground and they're flip and jump and roll over like that, where you get the real true good ones will roll right on the ground, right within themselves.
Yeah.
Right, and now rollers in the air do the same thing.
Okay. Were they short? They don't open their wings all the way out. They just partial.
Okay, let me show you a term here.
You know, the wing beak. You know, they're not going all the way
everybody's
out.
familiar with the term centrifugal force, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, along with centrifugal force, there's another term of centripetal force. And the difference between the two
Listen up, Joe.
is this. Centripetal force is the motion of the bird turning over and everything in its body is trying to go away from it.
Okay.
Okay, centripetal force is the impetus to turn in on itself to keep the roll going.
All right, bro. Okay.
So these two forces have to be in balance for you to, in order you to get a champion spinner to go.
Okay.
And that's the basic difference between those two things. And you'll see birds roll differently because of these two factors, along with their physical makeup. If they're out of balance, then whatever these two characteristics are will be out of balance also. So birds got to be within themselves.
Okay, as we're moving along on competition kits.
Right.
This will be the closing one, bro.
Okay.
We've had a tremendous interview today. I've enjoyed myself just by listening. I've learned.
I did too.
On kit competition.
Kit competition. Okay.
How much is how much?
All right,
how much is too much? You know.
Now let's break down the old controversy between kit and individual.
Okay, I know. This is the main event, fellas.
Basically, when you talk about individual competition and kit competition, you've got to separate the two because there are two entirely different entities. And if you don't, then you just wind up confused. Individual competition comes from flying a kit of pigeons and you've selected one bird or more out of that as the best bird there. And based on whatever grading system you use, then you're going to find your champion within that single bird. That single bird must perform from the kit. He is not a single bird flying out in space somewhere and he's rolling all over the place and somebody's jetted it. That is not an individual champion. That's just a bird that I would kill, not put back in the kit again to perform anywhere. That is probably the biggest misnomer that most kid people have of individual competition. Is that they have one situation right there, and I'll tell you what, the criteria for building an individual is totally different in kid also. Because with an individual, most of the time, we're looking at maximum performance within a short period of time. What we're looking at, the criteria for most of our birds is that they turn once a minute within a 15-minute period of time.
Oh, that's still a lot.
That's still a lot, but that is enough.
That's enough. Okay.
That's enough.
Okay.
For a bird that is maxing out in performance. Okay.
That's
on the other hand,
pretty ultimate.
kit competition is getting a number of birds to turn over at the same time and relative within the same distance. That is a hard enough situation in itself to deal with 20 different birds in most cases, which kits are made out of, to get those birds. Okay, they have to be bred a little bit differently when you talk about the genetic makeup of them.
Okay.
Because now, you're not talking about a bird turning once a minute for 15 minutes. Now you're talking about a team that you want to turn the maximum number of times. It may be 15 times a minute if they can do that in unison. That is the key to getting maximum performance and good kit competition out of your birds.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kit competition is about. The most number of turns within a time frame. And that's all, that's the only difference. And to confuse the two, individual and that, is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Because you cannot.
They're about as different as the other side of the coin.
Exactly. Right. So there's no controversy in that, except some guy might say, hey, I got a champion up here in my kit that I'll fly against anything out there. And that's what you have to do to prove it.
So now really there's not a dual purpose pigeon.
There
have
are some, okay, remember,
pigeons that
right
perform
from the
well on
top.
the show pin,
Yeah.
pigeons that perform well in the air. Now
Yeah, when you
pigeons that spin in the air and pigeons that tumble in the air and accumulate points.
Yes.
There's different. There were
Totally
like three different
That's a different
areas
ball
now.
game. He's talking about also like individual spinners and kit competition.
Yeah.
That also is
That's
He's
a,
talking about dual purpose between them. It can't be.
that is a new thing
It
to
doesn't
me.
mix.
Before it used to be dual purpose pigeon in the air and in the show. You can't have both of them. Now we got dual purpose pigeons up in the air.
Well, the ultimate goal.
No, I mean they're separate. Individuals, bred for
different,
individual,
yes.
and kid competition.
I'll
is,
tell you what, a
they're,
kid,
they're a bit different.
a kid of champion,
That's what he's saying.
champion type spinners would probably not beat a kid of champion rollers because they will not roll as frequently. And in most families of these high caliber spinning pigeons, they are less frequent and more stiff than your general competition kid birds.
But when they roll, it's
But when they
magnificent.
roll, you're talking quality. You're talking total quality. What we've got here,
Tape in their mouth, and then hey,
these are youngsters out of my cock with the JR30.
Right. Absolutely.
Over here, as you
Absolutely.
pan around, this is basically my old flying loft here. I used to fly teams of birds out of here. Right now, it's got the 5th classic team in here. A bunch of hens belong to a friend of mine. And as we come over through the background in here, this is where my breakup hens are in the back here. And I keep anywhere from, probably 10 to 15 hens on the most. I don't keep as many cocks. I normally keep about 6 to 8 cocks.
6 to 8 cocks.
Right, and my breeding season consists of about 6 to 8 pair.
6 to 8 pair. How many youngsters you get out of that per year?
Probably about 50 during most years.
How many make it? Do you think rough
Maybe
estimate?
1 or 2.
1 or 2.
Right. As far as the breeding off, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, probably 1 or 2. And the rest will stay in the kit for their lives unless somebody comes over and wants to pick one up. Okay, if you come inside, I do breed in individual cages, and these are 24 by 24 by 36, and it allows the breeders, since they're confined most of the time, I give them a little exercise board here which doubles as a feed trough of water, and then they have to go up on a shelf here, which gives them a little exercise too, as you saw this hand. And that just keeps them from getting bored and being confined, which they are.
And these birds are birds that you actually raise yourself?
Yes, yeah, these are my birds here. These are some of my breeders, the youngsters down off of JR30 and 195, both of those 2 principal cocks.
Boy, that JR30 went a long ways.
Oh, he is. That's my bird. And then there's a son out of here. They are also, this cock in the back is off of him. Bred to a hen that is actually, she's about 3 generations up, grandmother from him. And she's one of the principal birds of all of my blues over the past 5 years. Okay, as we come around, here we got another daughter off of Junior. He's outside. That's okay. He's out there. And then this is my weaning cage here. And what I do here is when I wean the youngsters, I'll give them their shots and all the worming and everything when I put them in here. And I'll give them their PMV and booster shots when I bring them out.
That's one question we didn't go over. You do vaccinate for PMV
Yes,
and
yes, I do.
all those different kind of diseases. Do you have a program you go throughout the year?
Yeah, well, like I say, I start inoculating my birds as soon as I wean them. Okay, they're normally in the weaning cage for about 10, 15 days at the most. When I bring them out of there, I give them their booster shots. And once I give them their booster shots, they're ready to go out with the rest of the breeding birds.
And these are your
Right, now
vitamins and minerals. And
Right. Okay, now, what this 3 pair represents here is something fairly unique for clubs. What we did was, in our membership, we went around to everybody's loft and picked out their best breeders. Of their best breeders, we probably picked 2 to 3 pairs, and what we did was brought all these birds together in one place, and then we graded all of the birds from every loft to come up with 3 pair of pigeons. These 3 pair of pigeons represent the best of our club. And what we've done here is that we just drew lots so that as the youngsters are produced, they go to different members, and build the strength of our club in that manner.
Promoter.
Right.
These are different gentlemen's birds right here then. Or these are
Yeah,
your
right
birds?
now, what it worked out to be, there's 3 of mine. I got a daughter, JR daughter here. And she is a beauty and a champion performer also. There's a granddaughter to granddaughter 195 here. And then a blue bar cock here is a grandfather to my old 195 cock that was in the Classic. Those 3 birds belong to me. Now there's a hen back here that belongs to Richard Luna. And these 2 cocks and nestmates that belong to Richard Luna here too. So actually what it boiled down to was the top 3 pairs actually belong to Richard and myself. And these are, now we've given everybody in our club an opportunity to get this caliber bird.
Wow.
And these birds are all, it's ironic, they all turn out to be 91 pigeons. And they were all performers, and they've all been the top breeders in the loss that they were in. So
All right.
you're talking about a real unique situation there.
Now this year you're also hosting the California Classic
Yes.
in your backyard. How long will that go on for?
Okay, that started in August, and it'll run through July the 15th of 95. And at that time, we will fly what we consider the #1 kit out of these. It's about 100 birds out there total in the Classic this year. And the top prize there is $2,000 for first place, $1,000 for second, and then the breakdown from 500 to 200 to 10th place.
Is it quite hard, difficult to select these pigeons for the main teams?
In comparisons, as far as performance goes, no, that's not the hard part. The hard part here is maintaining enough pigeons to win through the hawk season and get these birds flown and trained up to their capacity.
Can we take a look at
It's
those
the
birds?
hardest thing that there is. Yeah, we'll go through the. Here we go through the first team. This is what we call the #1 team. I can't open them too far today; they will come out. But this team right now has exhibited the best quality and performance of all the birds, and they will be on display for all the guys that have entered here. And the closer we get to flying.
They all look
And you can
identical
see-
in size and
Oh,
body.
They are. That was the thing I talked about earlier. Yeah, this is the #2 team, and there are some pretty decent birds too. And there are some good performers in here.
Any predictions?
No, because we're going to fly them. We only put them together right now because of their flying habits and their performance. As we go along, then their birds are going to shift out of either the lower ranks and up into the higher, or even from the higher down. So that's still yet to come. And if you notice the colors on them too, we really had back to the red and the blue teams here. Yeah, this is the #3 kit, and right now they're not doing as well as the rest of them, but we're going to try and give them all equal time so that they do get to fly to the maximum. And again, here you see we got one white in there and several different colors. And the Classic too, you know, everybody is not aware of it totally, but the Classic is an individual competition. Okay, this is the #4 team. And as you can see, the birds all fit and real good condition, and they all look like they can fly and do the job.
Any kind of special vitamins or minerals you're giving these birds?
Yeah, they get
feed?
they get basic feed, 14%, but they do get vitamins, minerals. We feed them the grit. We get them the Vital-Sol. We give them fresh lettuce and kale occasionally, and just keep them in good shape.
And these
This
birds,
is the 5th team here, and they are mount to the troublesome birds, the birds that don't like to kid, like to land all over everything, and just as in any kit, you're going to have the good and you're going
some
to
of
have
the
the bad.
clinkies, huh?
Yeah. So, but they will get equal flying time also. So it's not like, you know, well, they're the bad guys, they're just going to sit here. No, they're going to get out and work.
Some birds need longer time to develop,
Exactly right.
if they do develop at all.
Right. One Probably one consistent thing here, you'll notice there are more cocks than hens, and that's pretty much, you know, normal with all kids. You're gonna have these troublesome cocks.
Cocks.
Right.
Tough birds.
Right.
Well, Arnold, I guess this concludes our little interview for today.
Okay, well,
With the help of Johnny Reyes and yourself and me.
well, I'll tell you what, I'm very, very glad to interview with you guys. You know, give you the little bit of experience and knowledge I have.
Well, we appreciate it.
Right. It's been a learning experience for me too, because you know I'm a student of the birds, and
Okay, I'm gonna ask you another question. What are the best? I mean, what's the best 3 spinners to recollect that you can recall to your standard?
okay, well, for old time, nobody know anything about them.
It's
Right
okay.
now, but I'd rather stick with today's time right now. And probably the 3 best pigeons I have seen in the air, period, as spinners, are right here, right now. One being this little red check hen right here. And I call her superstar because I don't think there's a pigeon alive that can outperform this bird as far as speed and style. And she's a little cousin to my little JR cock.
Is she a
Bona fide, pure spinner.
she's a female?
Yeah. And she is the epitome of going past the hole.
Everything we've been talking about
Everything.
is right, wrapped up in here.
Right there.
Without question, Pete. Bird's got all the goods. Inwardly and out.
In and out. Right.
In and out.
It's gonna be a new thing. In and out. It's gonna be a
In
new
and
thing.
out. In and out, bro. In and out.
Okay, the other 2 birds are these, actually, 2 cocks here belong to Richard. Go check her out.
This one belongs to Richard. What was the depth to these birds?
Richard can tell you better on that. Come on over, Richard, when you're happy.
Okay, let's see this man. 966 was, for me, he was going 15, 20 feet. Frequent and fast. I had stalked him out early because I had lost his father. His brother is right here. And he was also a frequent bird, going from 40 to 60 feet, sometimes more.
I'll tell you, the overriding...
How long do you fly for?
He was going for about a year.
A year.
Yeah. His brother was earlier because I knew he was a cockbird and I was searching for a cockbird.
And probably the strongest characteristics that these birds displayed was the authority which they rolled. They didn't just fall into the roll, just roll into it. These pigeons went after the roll, and it was so obvious that when you see them, it looked like it would just smash it together. You could really get into it. All of these birds here represent our club's best. And I'll get into that right now. And what we did here is we went to everybody's loft, picked the best pigeons that they had, brought them over, and graded right through them using the owner's own information plus what we have observed ourselves. And we came down and picked 3 pair of pigeons, the best out of everything we had. And what we're doing here is breeding these birds together to share the wealth of our birds. Just to give you a little insight on the performance side of it. Richard mentioned the 2 cocks with his brothers and their performance. This little hen here is one of the little hen right there. This pigeon was a 70 to 80 foot rolling pigeon with excellent style. I wouldn't call her a true spinner because she went too deep. The second bird here, the one I'm related to, and that little pigeon is probably the deepest, tightest spinning pigeon I've raised.
Let me handle that.
Is that Richard's bird?
No, this is mine here.
That's your bird. I was gonna ask Richard, which family does this bird come from? Which families of birds are these?
The mother to these goes back to Michael Curtis. And this is the top side comes from a line of an old timer with Bill Farrell, which he had gotten, I believe, their grandfather, great grandfather from Bill Penson.
So basically, they're all Penson family pigeons.
Penson family pigeons. So the questions I like to ask: which families, which bloodlines? That way we know what we're using out here.
Yeah, and basically what this amounts to is a direct cross, an outcross between the two families of my birth and Richard's. So we're going to be looking at some interesting things. I mean, so far the color has come out real nice. So the illusion factor of Ricky Reyes and his family are coming through.
Interesting enough, everything we've talked about, Peter, today in this tape is in these pigeons. That's the whole thing about it, you know. We can talk pigeons all day long,
Right?
but you know, proof's got to be in the pudding. And they're here. And Arnold, we thank you again for this interview. We've lasted way too long, but it was all great.
All good.
Right.
Thank you, Johnny.